Good morning, listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew, but My Dog Did podcast, or Inc., as we like to shorten it. I am Maureen Scanlon, a master life coach, author, speaker, and your host for today, or for every day, pretty much. Um, I just want to say, as you always know, that I say what amazing guests we have. But today's guest, I just was telling him offline how excited I was about his interview because I hope listeners are listening to this in the morning because this is going to really set the tone for motivation for you for your day, your week, your month, and your year because you have no excuses after you listen to his story. So. Let me tell you a little bit about my friend Rand. So, Rand, oh my gosh, is inspirational and it's incredible the things that we think we cannot do. And what he did is he went on a little walk with his brother, not a little walk, let me tell you. His story is how in their early 70s, he was hiking 2,200 miles on the Appalachian Trail, which is the longest footpath trail only in the entire world. Now, if that's not something you put on your resume, I don't know what is. And only 500 people have successfully hiked the entire Appalachian Trail annually. So for him, it was the hardest thing he ever did when nobody was shooting at him. Why were people shooting at him? Because both him and his brother Ron are combat veterans from the Vietnam War. We love you and thank you for that service. I wasn't even born yet, but I appreciate what you have done to give me my freedoms today. So they were both very successful after their military careers, and Rand was a self employed attorney for 4 decades. Ron was a commercial pilot. He wrote about his adventures in a book called A Spiritual Passage, which tells the tale in journal format with 500 color pictures and is filled with serious and sometimes humorous sections on physical, emotional, and spiritual challenges that they faced, including his overcoming addiction to alcohol and his brother's difficulties with the grief of losing his wife. This is amazing that you're here, and I love you for being here. Rand, I can't even say enough. Welcome. Welcome to our audience. Welcome to our listeners. We're so pleased to have you here today.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. I look forward to this.
Oh, so we start off on I Never Knew with something I like to call the knee story. So a knee story is basically when we have points in our life where we just drop to our knees and go, I can't do this anymore. I'm feeling helpless. I'm feeling hopeless and I don't know which way to turn. Do you have, and it sounds like you have many, but what's one knee story that really sort of sent you on this trajectory to want to do the walk and let us know what was so profound for you that kind of was, I always say the knee moment is the before and the after moments that we have in life.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the hike on the Appalachian Trail was certainly a turning point in 2018 for us to do that. My brother's wife, Edie, passed away in November of 2017. And that's a funny story in itself. But my first turning moment actually was when I was about 5 years old. And you're at that point where you're starting to become conscious of the world at a different level. And I remember thinking, my dad was a Mustang pilot in World War II, and he's paralyzed from the waist down with polio. And he spent a year in the hospital, 8 months in an iron lung. And we are the poorest people in a very poor village in upstate New York with more cows than people. And when the boys go to school, they have manure on their barn boots, right? Uh, so I, from that point on, I just wanted to be somewhere else, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
I would run away many times. I always seem to end up back home at dinner time for some reason, but
I love that. I love that.
yeah. I was a pretty good student, played sports. I did a lot of Boy Scout stuff. Ronnie was a little more quiet. We had a great childhood in many ways, but the hardships were bad for me, and especially I didn't think I was worth much, you know. I remember the first time I got invited to a party. I'm 13 years old. I'm 5'8". I weigh about 90 pounds. I have acne like you wouldn't believe. I'm wearing clothes with patches on them. I have shoes with holes in the bottom, and I don't feel like I even belong, you know. And then I found a bottle of Jim Beam in the basement. We were playing hide and seek. And I had a little bit of that. And that was funny because, you know, that first mouthful or so it was like, "Bleh, how can anybody drink this?" My parents were not drinkers at all. Of course, they didn't have any money, so, but they weren't drinkers. But oh my gosh. And then I got that warm feeling went down I'll never forget it, Maureen. And it was
Mm.
just like, all of a sudden I'm 6'4". I'm like Clint Eastwood. I'm handsome. I'm debonair. I'm strong. I'm funny. I'm sex. I'm everything I'm not, right?
Courage in a bottle is what they say, and you just become this superhuman because you know what it does to your mind. That and at 13, that's definitely a very pertinent moment, you know, that changing moment in just going
Yeah.
into our teens, especially.
Yeah. And the other boy that was with me, he's gone now, but cirrhosis of the liver. But anyway, he was, you know, same size as me, but he weighed 200 pounds.
Oh,
And
God.
I swear I drank more of that bottle than he did. But we called home, and the next morning I woke up and I went upstairs and my dad was in the garage because he was always in the garage working on stuff. And I decided better fess up and I stood way back because he had a pretty sharp temper sometimes. You can imagine how frustrated some of his life was. But anyway, and I told him what happened, and he just looked at me and goes, "Well." The other boy, David, is in the hospital. And whatever you do, don't do that again. And my brain was like, I can't wait.
Oh, oh, wow. You remember that.
But
You even remember what you were thinking that even the talking to your dad about it, you're like, "Oh no, I'm doing it again because I know that felt really good to me." Wow, that's interesting. I love your introspect now.
yeah, the other part of it though was is that I also realized it could be a real problem. I just instinctively knew someday, Rand, this could be a real issue with you because I liked it too much. I just knew it. And I made a decision consciously to not ever do drugs, and I have never done drugs. I never, not even marijuana or any of that stuff. I don't know. I just knew that, but it wasn't a problem for a long time. But that was, you know, a turning point in my life for sure. And I had a lot of fun with it for a long time. But eventually, it got to me, and we'll talk about that. But so in
Yeah.
my childhood, and then I went into, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I went to Oswego, New York. But I kept changing my major, and I'm working three jobs. One of them is a janitor at my old high school, cleaning the toilets from midnight to 8 every day. I was a pin setter in a bowling alley. I'm selling Amway. I don't know if you remember Amway.
Yeah, I
They had that.
do.
Yeah. And I'm finally the third semester I changed my major to psychology because I knew I was a nut job.
You wanted to figure yourself out, so you're like, "Hey, I better study myself." Okay, I love that.
Yeah, and I would save up my money, my change and stuff, and I would drink occasionally on the weekend. And then one weekend in February of 1966, I went into a bar during a snowstorm and probably had a lot of fun. I don't remember much of it. But Monday morning, I come to or wake up and I'm on the pool table and I hear a key in the door and the owner of the bar comes in. He never said anything to me. He comes in. Walks over, starts cleaning up, washing, you know, glasses and stuff. I'm laying on the pool table. He turns the radio on and they're talking about the 1st Marine Division going into Vietnam.
Oh,
And they were talking about the kill ratio and all this stuff. And I'm laying there and I go, aha,
really?
I did. Yeah. For me, it was my French Foreign Legion. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
they say people go in the French Foreign Legion just because they don't know what the hell to do with their life. And I realized I don't seem to be able to make a big decision without getting drunk. I don't know what I don't know why that is, but
And I'm
And
just going to say this as an ex-military wife. My ex was in the army and he was also an alcoholic. I can just say that the army does not discourage drinking. That at least not in the in the 90s. We were in Germany in the 90s, during Desert Storm, and there was no discouraging. In fact, they, just as a sidebar, they sold a case of beer at their little, kind of like what would be a Circle K, but the army version of it, for $3. So they're not discouraging drinking in the military. So go ahead.
yeah, well, Marine Corps certainly. Yeah, no. And so while I'm doing all that, Ronnie actually enlisted in the Army. And he was in Vietnam when I made the decision to go into the Marine Corps. And so in March of 1966, I'm at the War Memorial in Syracuse, swearing to defend my country against enemies, foreign and domestic. And away I went down to Paris Island. And I went through, the 6 months of training at Paris Island. And we went to Camp Lejeune, Camp Geiger. It was all infantry skill set that we were working on and discipline and all that stuff. And actually, it was good for me. I put on some muscle and stuff, and I was patriotic. I was actually worried, Maureen, this is crazy, okay, but I was actually worried that the war would end before I got there.
Wow. Wow. Isn't
Which,
that amazing? Wow.
right.
Oh, and so brave. You were
But
so
then I
brave.
had another one of those, very naive, as it turned out. But I was a good, solid recruit. I'll put it that way. I dedicated myself doing the best I could. I lived from moment to moment. I can do whatever I got to do for 10 seconds, and then I would do it for the next 10 seconds. But then there was another turning point that was really unexpected. And one funny thing happened. So we're in Camp Pendleton getting ready to go. I've been training with the same training battalion for now, what, 6 months, right? And we're getting ready to go overseas. And my name is Timmerman. I'm in the last platoon, the last company, so I'm always the last guy, right? Well, this one day just before we leave for Vietnam, they reversed the battalion, and I'm the first guy.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I walk in this old hangar, but I go in a side door and I go down a hallway, I go down another one, and I come out, and there's eight medics with inoculation guns, four on each side. Now, the rest of the battalion is outside on the cement, on the parade deck. It's like 100 degrees out. It's hotter than heck. And I walked down that line and I must have flinched a couple of times because when I got through the line, they're banging you as you go by. Bang, 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 bang. I got blood running down my arms and dripping off my fingertips. And when I walked out of that hangar into the sunlight, those guys are all standing there at attention, right? They just stopped. They just started feigning. I mean, they were
Oh,
feigning by the dozens.
oh my God. Just dropping
I
like
was,
flies.
I was so glad I was first because I would have been one of those guys.
Yeah, I can only imagine. They're like, what is happening right now? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm
The,
next.
Mar- the Marine Corps never told you what you were going to be doing. I think it's changed now, but the whole idea was that you had to be ready for anything.
Ooh.
So they never told us what we are going to do, almost never. Anyway, the next day we have our last formation, and sergeant with a clipboard comes out and yells out my name. And I'm at the back, and I walk to the front, stand at attention in front of him, say, "Yes, sir." And he says, "You're going on mess duty." I said, "What? You're going on mess duty? You've never been on mess duty." So what happened was the next day, all my buddies left. And I'm every day this is no lie, from 4 a.m. until about 7 or 8 p.m. every night, I went to the mess hall. I sat on a stool. In the morning, it started out with a pile that was about 10 feet tall of potatoes, and I peeled potatoes by hand all day long for 30 days in a row.
Oh my gosh. You talk about resilience. You talk about just how do you find meaning in your day knowing what is going to just keep happening, for 30 days. How exhausting it must have been.
Well, and yeah, and I'm supposed to be a hero going over there, fighting with my buddies, and now I don't know, what's going to happen. People have asked me, "Were you being punished?" I said, "I don't know. It's just the way the military, it was But anyway, so I ended up in Vietnam a month later. I did see a couple of those guys, and I will tell you one story about that in a minute. But I got into, I actually went into the 1st Marine Division,
Wow.
which was the division that I was listening to on the radio in that bar, right?
Mm.
So it was a struggle, but I ended up, we went into Okinawa, flew into Da Nang. 1st Marine Air Wing was at Da Nang in
Mm.
Vietnam, and later I would be in the 1st Marine Air Wing.
Wow. Full circle, right? Full circle.
Yeah, after I came back, and so I made my way up to Da Nang and into the 1st Marine Division headquarters. You had to bum a ride. I got a ride on a 6 buck, and then I ended up on a Jeep. And anyway, it's the middle of the night. It's the monsoon. It's pouring rain. They take some poor PFC and tell them to take me to the armory and then take me to the transition tent. And we do all that. And I got all my gear. I got my grenades. I got my, yeah, I'm all set to go to battle, right? We walk to the transition tent. It's the middle of the night. It is pitch dark. And he starts to open the flap on the tent, and there's a bang. Oh my God. And all of a sudden, the pandemonium breaks out in the tent. And a guy came flying out and said, "Don't go in there." And they're yelling, "Medic, medic, medic." And I had stood outside in the rain for, I don't know, a long time. The guy that was taking me, he disappeared. I don't blame him.
He just left.
Eventually, they took the body of the Marine out. And I went finally met in the tent, sat down on a cot, and I'm just like, I don't know what, So I'm just listening to these guys talk. And what had happened was that they just came off the field that day. They didn't have time to turn any of their stuff in. They're leaving Vietnam the next day. They've done their 13-month tour, but they got their mail in big packages like this, Maureen. And we got it the same way, I found out. And what you do is you open it up and get to the most important letter, right? This guy was looking for one letter. He found it, the most recent one from his girlfriend. He opened it up and it said, "Dear John, I hate to tell you this, but I met somebody else. It's been a real whirlwind, and we got married yesterday." And he
Gosh.
picked up his pistol and he blew his brains out.
Oh my God. Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, oh my God.
Yeah. Wow.
So that, put a pretty dark thing on it for me. But I was a good soldier. I did a lot of stuff. I was a quick typist. Sometimes I would sit in tent and type all day long, and then I would go out on a night patrol or I would go on a perimeter thing. I was a machine gunner on a helicopter for a period of time. I ended up joining a reaction platoon, which meant we went out when things were dicey to try to turn the tide. So they had me running around all over the place. And one day, this relates back to why it was so significant that I didn't go with my guys that I trained with. And I'm out in the field. I had delivered something to the captain, to the company headquarters, which is just a foxhole, basically, right, with radio and stuff. And they said, "Go down the 1st platoon. They got a prisoner, and they want you to take him back to the headquarters battalion." So go down that trail. And they're fighting, they're shooting, right?
Right.
So I'm walking down this trail by myself. I get this prisoner. He's secured properly. He's got his hands behind his back, tight. The rope goes around his waist. He's got a blindfold on, and I grab him by the rope and take him back up. And then they send me out to a resupply point, which is another trail. I'm walking with this prisoner by myself.
A lot of
And I
trails
walk,
in your life is the theme here, I think.
yeah. So we get to the landing point, and there's nobody there. So I tied this guy up to a tree. Had him sit down, was back to the tree. He didn't give me any problem, sometimes was not the case, but he was very docile. Tied him to the tree, and I decided I better do a one-man perimeter watch. So I'm walking around, trying to keep my eyes open. And then finally the trucks show up with supplies, water, ammo, that kind of thing, right? And I think the very first one that pulled in, all of a sudden it stops. The guy jumps out and goes, "Hey, Timmer, Timmer." It turned out it was one of my guys that I trained with,
Oh,
right? So he and I get, we're trading war story, whatever, happy to see each other. Trucks are coming in. I'm not paying much attention. All of a sudden we hear this blood curdling scream. And I knew right away. Everything stopped. I ran to where the screaming was coming from. I ran behind the truck that had just backed into the tree and squished him and then
Oh,
pulled away. And his whole chest was just, he had blood coming out of every orifice of his body, his eyes, his ears, his nose, his mouth, everything.
oh my God.
And I knew there was no medic there yet. So I untied him and laid him on his back, held his hands, and watched him die.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
And I
glad
was
that you're
thinking,
giving detail like that because I don't think people appreciate what our military experiences. I don't think it's one thing to see it in movies or whatever, but when you've lived it like you do, how do you compartmentalize that and then keep going on to, be this good soldier? Was that hard after that, or was this every moment, like you said? I love what you said is the Marine Corps never told you what was going to happen next. I feel like that's kind of how life is. We don't know what's going to happen day to day. Do you think that that helped you just sort of compartmentalize and then on to the next thing?
yes. In some fashion, yes, I did, and you just learn to swallow it and move on. I was pretty devastated because I knew I'd done a really bad job,
Yeah.
and but nobody ever chastised me. They could see it on my face, I think,
Mm.
and they just kept sending me out doing crazy stuff. I was a machine gun on a helicopter that went really bad one day. I survived that, and then I had another. On the reaction platoon, we went on a mission one night in very bad weather, very bad. So we all knew if you looked at us, we all looked like we were scared to death because we knew it was going to be bad. It could go really bad because it was raining. It's still a monsoon. We walked all night to get to where this plane had crashed. It was on fire. It had wiped out half of a Vietnamese village. We couldn't even come close to securing the whole site because there wasn't enough of us. And when daylight came, it went really bad.
Mm.
And we ran out of ammo, and I used my bayonet and I ran. And
Oh,
uh, and then I had a situation with a prisoner on a helicopter that the prisoner went out one doorway and I went out the other, and I ended up on the skid. I only tell you those two real quick is because when I came back, I ended up having really bad nightmares.
I can imagine.
And yeah, the first one was, it's fun. Well, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but
Okay.
I'm married. I have two kids, another one on the way. I'm in, I didn't have a college degree, so I was going to college and I went to law school. And I was thinking, it's weird because all the other guys that came back, most of them had problems, uh, mental problems. And I got real busy. Well, what happened was they made me a second lieutenant the last 2 months I was in Vietnam.
Oh,
They called him
wow.
a Mustang lieutenant. It's a combat lieutenant. So when I was getting ready to leave, Colonel came and talked to me. He said, "You got two choices. You can either go back to corporal, which means you're going to get out in a few months, or you can go to OCS and become a real lieutenant." So I did that. It saved
Wow.
me. Yep. And then I went home on leave for 30 days. We drank a lot. I was dating a girl that I had met like the day before I went in the Marine Corps. And by the time I left, we were engaged. And she became the
Really?
mother of my three girls. Yeah. Um, and so I went to OCS, the basic school, which is the higher level training. And I was kind of on a pedestal a little bit because I was a second lieutenant with combat experience, almost unheard of. And I didn't have a college degree, I didn't have an education. So
Yeah.
uh, I was able to help a lot of those guys during trainings. They didn't make it any easier for me. I was just in a different level as far as my comrades were. So anyway. So I decided to go in the air wing because I don't want to be a grunt anymore. And I really liked flying. I mean, but I couldn't qualify because of my eyes. So anyway, I went in the first Marine Air Wing, which was at Cherry Point, South Carolina, and I reported in there on a Sunday. And the captain of the day was a Mustang. He was my drill instructor in Paris Island. He was a Mustang lieutenant in Vietnam while I was there. I wasn't with him much, but I did see him a few times. Then he was a first lieutenant, then he was a captain. So he's a captain now when I get there. I didn't even know he was there. This is all, turns out he was my guardian angel. And he goes, where do you want to go to a school? This is Sunday, I just got there. And he says, well, I don't know. What you got? And he's rallying off. I said, you say Rhode Island? I've never been to Rhode Island. He said, yeah, that's a JAG school, Judge Advocate General. It's to legal officers. Sign me up. Next day, I'm in Rhode Island going to this school, which is 99 guys that are all captains that have all graduated from law school.
Oh,
And here's me, a second lieutenant who's not even a real officer because he's an ex-enlisted man, right? So they're not looking up to me at all, right? And 20 of us rented a mansion because it was the off season, and we all had our own room. These guys are partying a lot, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to drink. I'm gonna focus in on this, see what I can do. And we drank on the weekends, but guess what? I had the highest scores at the end of the school. I am the school honor man, the class honor man.
love that.
Pissed them all up, Maureen.
Right? Right? It's not
Yeah,
about what you know, it's what opportunities can you get to show people what you are and who you are. I love that story so much.
yeah. So then I went back to Cherry Point, and I'm on the list to go back to Vietnam. I'm going to be almost certainly a forward observer, which is a pretty risky thing. And but I'm defending Marines that get in trouble. The first two I get they're acquitted. Now you're not judged by a panel of your peers in the military justice system. The jury is usually a colonel, a major, a captain, and maybe a lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was charged with sleeping on watch. In the Marine Corps, that is horrible. That's totally unacceptable. That's Fort Leavenworth, 2 years dishonorable discharge, automatic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
But I called a witness and finagled this and that, and there's some doubt about whether or not he was actually asleep, and they acquitted him.
Oh my
Really ticked
gosh.
off the lieutenant that was prosecuting. Anyway, I did two, three like that. I got a couple of acquittals. Guess what? I'm a prosecutor.
Oh
I'm not
my
gonna let this
gosh.
guy screw things up anymore. And then every few months, I get sent down to Roosevelt Roads, which is a Navy base in Puerto Rico, and I do other Article 32 trials. And then I
Mhm.
come back, and I'm not on the top of the list to go to Vietnam anymore. And I'm talking to this captain, my friend, who ended up being a gunnery sergeant when I left, and I was a first lieutenant. And I said, I don't understand how come I'm not going back to Vietnam? He said, you dumb, why do you think I'm sending you down there? Because if you go back, you'll get killed. He knew I would
Mm.
get killed almost certainly, or badly wounded for sure. So
Where was your brother in all of this in location wise with you? Were you able
he
to
was,
talk to him?
we did with to see him for, I think it was at least 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. I took leave in Vietnam to go see my brother.
Oh
And when I
God.
got down there, they made me a machine gunner on a helicopter. So every day I was flying around with Army those they were great pilots. They were awesome pilots. It was actually kind of fun,
Wow.
except when it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah,
The
I could.
experience, I mean, just the experience of it, and then giving you that background and proving to yourself, you know what, it doesn't matter, what they think I can do or whatever their experience or their rank is. I would think that would give you so much confidence once you were out of the military and home from Vietnam. Do you think that really helped you proceed actually in life when you got back?
Oh yeah, it was absolutely life changing. That's why I'm talking about it because these quirky things that happened to me uh, changed my life.
Yeah.
And so I became I don't want to pat myself too hard on the back, but I became a litigator. I was a guy who spent almost every day in court. The days I didn't go to court, I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to work in the office.
I love it. It was cool how, it's funny how life works like that. You never know where you're going to end up and then all of a sudden you're in this thing that's like your passion. Like you're like, that's where I fit. And that's the thing I wish for everyone in the world that is, a human and on this planet is like, if you can find that thing that you love, like you said, if I'm not in court, man, that sucks. If you know you would do it for free, then you know you're in your passion and your purpose. And that's how I feel about this and coaching. It's like, well, I do this for free, so there you go. That's proof enough. But tell us now, let's go to how you guys end up on this decision to walk the Appalachian. Is it like sort of a healing process for both of you out of the military, or was this just we've overcome a lot, or we need to overcome a lot? Let us know how that path closed in to doing that.
Okay, so when Ronnie came back, I was still in the Marine Corps actually, but
Oh,
I must have been home on leave at one point when he came back, and so our mother's best friend's name was Edie, and Edie was a divorcee with 7 kids.
oh
And my brother comes back, and next thing I know, they're frolicking, man. Edie is like she's wearing mini skirts, red cowboy boots. I think at one point they were driving around a convertible. They were going line dancing, and my brother's like fell madly in love with her and the 7 kids, and they ended up moving to Utah and became Mormons. And my brother was a bishop in the Mormon church for 4 years and did a lot of weddings and funerals. So they had an amazing life. The kids were great kids. Some of them got involved in very deeply in the church too, and still are. They produced 27 grandchildren,
my God.
now 30 great grandchildren. It was 27 when Ronnie and I hiked the trail. And unfortunately, and they had a great life. I hardly ever saw them. They came east usually in the summertime, and we would hang out maybe an afternoon or two. My younger brother and I would be drinking and teasing Ronnie. He's a bishop in the Mormon church. He doesn't drink. He's no fun. He's bored.
Right.
It
Stick
was
in the
all,
mud.
yeah, he took it really well. I mean, but we were just my 4 siblings and we've always gotten along really well. So, but anyway, we weren't really that close. Well, then Edie had a stroke in 2011, really bad, put her in a wheelchair. And then she had a whole bunch of minis strokes.
Mm.
So she got worse, not better. And Ron took care of her the whole time. He would not let anybody else take care of her. He was running every day. Like stay in shape and so he would put her by the window in a wheelchair and he would go out and like run around for an hour and he'd come by the house, make sure she's all right. I did 26 marathons. I was also trying to be physically, fit. I did a lot of cross-country ski races all over North America. I do 50Ks in the winter. I had a buddy that we were weekend warriors. So Ronnie and I had a base level of fitness that's kind of unusual, right? Was what I'm getting at. So then when she died, I finally went out to see him in January of 2018. And we went for a walk in the desert. Beautiful out there. He was in St. George. It's gorgeous. I was on a cruise ship and I went on one of those things where you walk and they have a video thing there and you can
Okay.
pick a trail to walk on. I'm on a cruise one time and it's the trail in Utah that I walked with my brother. I'm like, that's
It
how
always,
beautiful it was.
it always like with you, it looks like everything always like comes back around, which I love that. There's no coincidences in life, I don't believe. I think that's so cool to see these ties to this at this time in my life, and then I come back around to this thing at this time in my life. That's so fun. How fun that is.
Yeah. So by the time I went out to see Ronnie, I had finally gotten so my to divert back to that for a minute.
Yeah.
My alcoholism didn't really bother me until I got into my late 50s, early 60s. I've been married 4 times.
Hmm.
So I had relationship problems and I had other problems. I had really bad nightmares. I started to tell you a little bit about that. One of them was horrible. The first time it happened to me, just to give you some idea. Uh, I was amazed that I didn't seem to, I was so busy working, had a family, getting my college education, getting my law degree and everything. And I was like, it's amazing I don't really have any problems. I just seem to be, I've made the transition perfectly smooth. Thank you very much. And then one night, uh, I'm in bed and I'm not in bed. I'm in Vietnam. I'm back in the war and it's horrible. It's one of those wicked bad battles. Don't know what's going to be the outcome. We're fighting like crazy. And all of a sudden I get sliced.
Oh,
I'm sitting on the ground. Now this relates back to one of the missions I was telling you about. And I'm holding my insides and I'm trying to put them back in. And all of a sudden I realize, Rand, this time you're done. There's, you're done. And I just start screaming. And all of a sudden, I'm bathed in this white light. I think I'm covered in blood. I can smell all kinds of stuff. I can smell the gun smoke. How does that happen? And then all of a sudden, this white light, and finally open my eyes, and my wife is laying on the floor across the room, and she's flicked up the light switch. I'm not in the battle in Vietnam. I'm in my bedroom.
oh
And
my
she's
God.
on the floor looking at me like, you know what? And I'm not covered with blood. I'm covered with sweat. I mean, soaked. And the bed is full of manure because I
Mm,
voided myself.
yeah. Oh
And
my God.
we're looking at each other and we both knew this is really bad. This is bad.
Yeah.
And after that, I started using alcohol to medicate myself.
Yeah.
I only never slept more than 4 or 5 hours, and I still same way. And I still walk 7, 8 miles a day. I'm 80 years old now, but um, we knew something had changed. So I gotten used to coming home, putting the kids to bed. My wife would go to bed, and then I would just pound it
Hmm.
for an hour or so. And then I'd go to bed, and I would get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and just go to work. And I'm one of those guys, just march. And
Yeah.
so for a long time, it wasn't a huge problem. The other bad nightmare I had, hard to believe, was falling out of an helicopter. Only this time I'm not landing on the skid. Those two were the big ones, and they tormented me for decades.
Wow.
And there was no treatment for us guys, none from Vietnam.
No. And mental health awareness was not a big thing even in my growing up in the 70s and 80s, It's like we didn't talk about it and the coping mechanisms, the medicating yourself is really what everybody did, if you can't especially like not being able to talk about it. Of course, also the reception, that our soldiers like you got when you came back, you just kind of buried that stuff and you were one that repressed it and then just kept busy so you didn't think about it. But, subconsciously your brain is like, we got to get this out. We've got to work through this. We need to process this. We can't just stifle it. And so it's understandable the alcohol and the relationship issues because anyone who's experienced that amount of trauma daily for a very, very long period of time, there's no other expectation than that happening. So, I mean, first of all, you do not look 80. My gosh, I'm just blown that you're 80. My God, that's amazing. But I just wanted to throw that in there that wow, the fact that you're still here and that you decided the alcoholism was, not a can't be a part of my life anymore. So tell us when the turning point of the alcoholism made you decide I can't do that anymore because obviously counseling wasn't in the picture at that time, right?
No. First time I ever went to the VA, I was 66 years old in handcuffs.
What?
And I had made a phone call because of my suicidal ideation. And so I got a free ride in a state trooper car to the VA psych ward in Syracuse, New York, on the sixth floor. And I walked through three doors. It was real easy getting through those three doors. Getting in, a lot harder getting out.
It's true.
And 3 days later, they give you a little medication so you don't have a seizure or whatever. And I was doing that. And I had grabbed a couple books of the program I was in because I was trying to get sober. And luckily, they let me take those. And after a couple, 3 days, I'm like, you're okay. You're just a drunk. These people are nuts. They are. A lot of the people in there were really had serious problems. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just
No,
saying.
true.
And I suddenly realized there's really not a whole lot wrong with me, except I got this fatal alcohol
Yeah.
problem, which today we know it is a metabolic thing,
Mhm.
for a long time. I thought it was a moral thing. I thought it was some kind of weakness. I can do anything I put my mind to. I proved it over, but I could not stop once it took over in my early 60s.
Yeah,
And I was totally
that's why they
baffled
call
with
it a
that.
disease, right? You didn't, it's a disease
Yeah.
that has to be cured. This isn't a, I decide. I mean, you decide to get help, but you still, it's the metabolic thing and it's a disease. And, I've lived with, a couple of alcoholics and I know they wanted to stop, but they just
Yep.
couldn't. And you bring up a good point that I want to say when it comes to alcohol addiction, you don't have to drink a lot for it to be uncontrollable. So I was with someone in a relationship where he could literally just have one beer and then he was a different person. He was violent or he was, off his rocker. So when you say it's the metabolic thing, it is how you process the alcohol. So just, you like you said,
Yep.
you started drinking more and more, but at first you said you were a weekend drinker, so that's a really good point that you brought up. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, we know the American Medical Association in 1956 declared it a disease, and it's because alcoholics metabolize alcohol differently, and we create an excess of acetone,
Mhm.
and that's where you get that feeling of thirstiness. I mean, I would go on a binge, and 3 or 4 days later, I can't hardly function. All I've been doing is drinking, passing out, and breathing. I call them air vodka vacations because I just want to obliterate, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand how can I'm on my way to the hospital and I'm still drinking
Mhm.
because I can't stop. But it's because of the acetone. It's actually a chemical process that alcoholics have a different way of metabolize. A normal drinker, they start creating acetone. They don't like that feeling. They stop. But an alcoholic doesn't. That's why even men of, far better, bigger stature than me who are alcoholics, they just destroy their whole lives and they don't ever understand the process. But I got involved in, well, the program I'm in is anonymous. It's for alcoholics. So we
Yes.
have a tradition where you don't broadcast that on a
Mhm.
personal level for good reason, because if I went back out, then I'd be hurting the program. But anyway. And so I had gotten sober 4 years before Ronnie and I decided to do well, he decided to do the Appalachian Trail. And within that, I finished the program, there's 12 steps, and then I started working with other guys, which really saved me. From that point on, it was, my whole life changed. I had a lot of joy just watching men get better and doing a lot of other things. So anyway, so we're out there in Utah, and I asked Ronnie, "What are you going to do about this grief? It's like killing you, bro. Did you stop believing in God?" Because see, that's how I became able to put the drink down when I turned my life over to a higher power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So for the first time in my life, I began to understand what he had been doing his whole life, right? Having
Right.
faith in a higher power to keep him. And he had a joyous life, and they had a joyous life, and now it's gone from his perspective. He said, "I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail." I said, "Okay," because I had hiked parts of the Appalachian Trail. I mean, I would go on these solo weekend things, and I would find the hardest mountains I could find, and I would just go out for 2 or 3 days by myself. And so, but it turned out Ronnie had been doing a lot of hiking in Utah too, that I didn't know anything about, and. And I said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And he says, "Oh, I'm going to get on a bus, take all my gear. I've already got my gear, and go down Springer Mountain and start walking." I
Oh my
said,
God.
"That's ridiculous." So I'll go. "You will?" "Yeah, I'll go." So we did. We took two vehicles. We had all our gear, all our food, everything, and we went down to Springer Mountain on March 22nd of 2018 in a snowstorm.
Oh my gosh. I mean, go big or go home. You guys went big.
We went big, and I ended up writing a book about it. I'll just show you real quick that
Yes.
the 500 pictures, they're really beautiful pictures. And so I never planned on doing the book. I took 5,000 pictures. See, Ronnie did it different than I did it. Ronnie was like marching.
Hmm.
kind of head down. And he would go as fast as he could go. I had, and I still have an artificial hip or an artificial knee on my left knee. My right leg is a half inch shorter from other problems that I had, and they took out all my medial meniscus and anterior cruciate ligaments. So I've been bone on my right
Oh.
leg for since I was 27, and I ran 26 marathons after that. So I'm a complete idiot, right?
Oh my gosh, that is insane. My mother has two knee replacements, and I know the excruciating pain that she had been in prior to those. I can't even imagine how you ran on that. Wow. Wow. Resilience, there you are. Tough. You're tough.
Yeah, a lot of pain too. But anyway, um, so I like to brag I'm the limpiest man to walk the Appalachian Trail.
I love it.
Ron's son Rick hiked with us the first couple of weeks, and he took a video. I didn't even know this till much later. He took a video of me from behind, and then a couple of years ago, I happened to be at his house, and he was showing it, and I said, "Who's that guy?" He said, "That's you." I said, "That guy's got a real problem." So yeah, and we started out. I actually thought, Maureen, there's no way. Now, when I did the book a few years later afterwards, uh, and Ronnie read it the first time, he goes, "You didn't think we could do it?" Because I said, "No way."
That's neat that
But we,
you didn't let on that this wasn't, something that you thought you guys could do, and you kept that to yourself, and probably you coming along really helped Ron stay motivated to keep moving, with the head down
right,
and, healing. It's very healing. I say nature's healing anyway, and I think exactly what you said earlier about helping other people through their alcoholism. I think acts of service is the medication. I once I started helping other people when I started coaching, man, did that heal my past. It's so underrated. I think we should stop throwing medication, and meditation. I don't want to say meditation, but we should really get out there and do these things that really make a difference, like helping others and getting out in nature and being self-reflective and kind of take that inventory and let life sort of go off to the side for a minute. So I love that so much.
yeah. It's funny because when you're hiking, everybody has a trail name. Nobody ever uses their real name. And Ronnie's was attitude indicator because that's an instrument on a airplane panel that tells you what position the plane is in.
It's great.
In relationship to the horizon. And he gave me my trail name, Rambo.
That's fantastic. Creative.
Yeah, yeah. So one day, so you get in where you see the same people every day for a while. You get it like in a bubble. We averaged 11 miles a day, and twice we went 30 days without stopping, which is insane, right? The Appalachian Trail goes 2,200 miles from Springer Mountain, Georgia to Katahdin Mountain in Maine. It goes over 600 mountains. It has almost a half a million feet of elevation changes. It's 465,000 feet.
Oh
So
my God.
you're going up and down all the time. About 3 million people every year hike some part of it.
Mhm.
Uh, Somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 try to go the whole way. And you were right, about 17% make it every year, and that's about 500. So 450, 500 people. So it's not very many people.
Wow.
Now, it took us 3 years.
What?
Um, we had so many things happen. And one of the funny things was about my limp. So we were in this bubble with this Oriental guy. He was a very handsome, stocky, probably 5'4". He looked like a samurai warrior type thing. He could have had a sword. I don't know. He's got the cloaks and stuff. And then he had this really fancy headgear. And so one day he came up to me and he says, "I want to hold your hands." Okay. He says, "You're limping. We're gonna say a prayer, and then I'm gonna fix your knees for you, okay?" Okay. So
Sure.
he's going on for like, and people are walking by us, and he's babbling away, and then all of a sudden I hear him say, "Macbeth." I realized he's quoting Shakespeare.
What in the world? Oh my God, what a character. What a character. Were there a lot of people like that that were just kind of characters and it made it fun for you? That sounds like that would be, I would like the people part of it.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun for me because I was walking it in a different mindset than Ron. I kept telling myself, I'm never going to come this way again. And sometimes I think, I'm never going to step here again. And I would come around the corner, I go, oh, look at that. And I would take pictures. I took a lot of pictures and relating to people. I have pictures of people in the book itself because that's a big part of the story is just meeting all the people you meet, especially in the beginning. After a while, we didn't see anybody, but um, yeah, all the people, and then the Rambo thing. So at nighttime, we would be so tired. We would hike from right at daybreak, usually to go 11 miles. The average that you can do in the mountains is like a mile and a half. I mean, going up and down mountains is really hard. I can do 3 miles still today in about an hour and 10 minutes on walking around in cemeteries and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Or in the woods. But in the mountains, forget it. You're
Right.
carrying a pack and all that stuff.
Oh
And
God,
and
yeah.
then I fell down every day and I would be laying there like nobody's shooting at you. Get your ass up and get going. I broke 4 ski poles and all that. So, and then he went north or south every day. I went north. What we did was we had 2 vehicles. There are trails or roads that pass over the Appalachian Trail about every 10 or 15 miles, somewhere between there. So we had 2 vehicles. We would park on the trail, right on the trail itself, right on a road. I like to brag I slept in a tent every night, and I did, but it was right next to my truck usually. And then in the morning, he would drive and go around and get up to the next road, right? And so he
Oh.
would walk south, and then I would walk north. We would meet in the middle, and in the middle of the day, and then he'd get my truck and come back around and then come back to where I ended up. So that's how we didn't do it all that way because there's, 75 miles in the Smoky Mountains. You got a backpack and Priest and some other ones, but so we weren't carrying a regular pack most of the time. I usually carried about a 15-pound pack because I carried a lot of extra water and I had a first aid kit. And a lot of the hikers were not well prepared. And then at night, one night, I remember Ronnie said, "Man, bro, there's a lot of weird people out here." And I go, "Hey, Ron, I hate to break it to you, but we're weird. We're weird. They're all weird.
Yes.
We're all weird." And he goes, "No, we're not, Randy. We're normal people." Like, when Ron, we're weird. Normal people don't do this.
I love it. You should live in Austin because the motto of Austin is stay weird. So I love it. I love weirdos. That's to me, weirdo equals unique and special. So yes, we're all weirdos. I'll be a weirdo right there with you and Ron.
Yeah. So we actually did 1,463 miles the first year, 2018, which is a lot. We were into New Jersey, and then it was a hot day, and it was in August. We'd lost 35 pounds. I mean, we were really getting worn down pretty bad. I was in a lot of pain and from all falling in my knees and everything. And I came out one day, and Ron was waiting for me, and he hadn't unpacked or anything, and he's standing and was sweating, and he goes, "You want to go home?" I said, "Sure." So we went home, and but then the next year he called me and said, "You want to go back?" I said, "Okay, let's finish it." So we went back, and so one day pretty much after you get it into let's see, where was it? Spring. I can't think of the name of it right now. Halfway point, a lot of the people drop out at that point, and in Maryland, just south of Maryland, and so we weren't seeing a lot of people. And I'm going north, so I was not seeing hardly anybody. Ronnie's still going south, though he would run into a few people. So
Mm.
one day, after we get done, we're sitting there, and I go, bro, something really weird is happening to me out here all of a sudden. Because what was happening, I would run into this particular day was a man and a woman like 3 times. And each time the man goes, I go, "My name is Rambo." I will always tell my trail name so they could tell me theirs, and then I would put it in my journal. So I go, "I'm Rambo." And the guys go, "Oh, yeah." we saw your brother. He was telling us about you. And can I have my picture with you? And they put their arm around me and they go, I thought you'd be bigger. And the wives are like standing back, like, "Huh?" And take my picture. And so that night I'm going, Ronnie, something's really weird is happening here. And and I said, what are you doing? He said, no, I'm doing anything. I said, well, I tell him what was happening. And he goes, come on, bro, what's going on? He's shaking, he's looking down. Well, I'm telling him you're the real Rambo. You know, Rambo, like Sylvester, like the movie,
Yes,
because
yes.
we're combat veterans. I said, bro, don't do that. You're going to get me killed.
I know, right? You're like, stop it. I can't live up to that expectation. Knock it off. Okay, well, we've got about 10 minutes left. So I want to know, are you inspiring to do another walk, or are you where you feel like your whole life story do you feel some, I guess, closure? I don't know how to say that in a different way, but like, satisfaction. I mean, a lot of us go through life feeling like we haven't done everything we wanted to do. But do you feel now, through all the interesting things that you've lived, that you're very content with your life?
Oh, I am absolutely content beyond belief because, and the best way to explain this is about 5 years ago, I had a guy that I was working with. He goes, Rand, if you could go back to when like you were 55 or 60 and get sober then, would you do that? And I go, no.
Right.
Nope. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. God put me here for a reason. I had no clue. God made me a sober man once I turned my will, my life over to his care so that I could help other men or other people, right?
Yeah.
In the program, men usually work with men, women work with women. Not always, but that's the general
Yeah.
tenet of what we try to do. And
And
I said no. And then I had asked him how he was feeling, and he was feeling really, because he was going to do his confession to me this day. It's a special thing that we do where we talk about our wrongs to turn them over to God, so we have to tell another human being, so God can figure out that we actually are honest, that we can figure it out, you know.
yeah.
And so I did the prayer with him to start that off, and I asked him how he's feeling. You're nervous, and he said, "How do you feel, Rand?" I said, "I feel joy," and
Yeah.
my brain goes, "What?" I said, I feel joy. I do. Maureen, I feel joy every day, way beyond anything I ever saw possible. And it's because I'm helping other people every single day. You know, I get up, I say my prayers and meditation because that's what I was taught to do. I have to have a connection with a higher power to help me with my difficulties, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I go to meetings, and then I usually hang out with a guy or two, and we do some literature work and some other things, and we work our way through the program so that we can stay sober. And then they go out and help other guys. I was at a meeting not too long ago thinking I wasn't doing that great a job. And I took a new guy with me to come to the meeting, and I'm sitting between two guys I've helped. And all of a sudden, I'm looking around the room. There's only like 30 people in there. And I'm like, there's 5 guys here that I've taken through the steps that are being sober men. And 4 of them have guys with them that are in the middle of it.
Yes.
Oh, what the heck?
Because
And that's not
you,
me.
yes, it
That's the
is.
higher power. Yes.
Working through you, but you had to decide. You had to take the action. This wasn't, you have free will, so it wasn't just someone made Rand do this thing. And when you say that, listeners know that I always say, be the pebble in the lake, create those
Hmm?
ripples. And that's what you are. You're that beautiful pebble that helps everybody get to the place of joy that you are. And I was thinking when you said, I would never change a thing, I'm the same way. And people think, oh, come on, there's something you would change. And I always say, maybe not spending as much time in those lessons and experiences, but still getting the lesson. But it wasn't a minute too soon or a minute too late that you did something that brought you to where you are today. And it makes me so happy just to see you. I can see a light in you. I can see joy in you. I can see a peace that you deserve and the bravery to come here and, do God's work and to do what we were meant to do, our purpose and helping others and helping other humans, because we're not a solo society. We have to interact. We have to engage. And I get it. This is why I do the podcast. This is why I wrote the books. This is why I coach. I'm you. I'm a junior you because that's so fulfilling. And my listeners know I had some health problems this year, some major struggles. And when I couldn't do this, it was empty. I was missing this. I didn't have a voice, Rand, for 2 months, and it's still pretty rough now. But without having a voice, that's me. I'm a voice. That's who I am. So I love that you said that because I get that. And I want to know where listeners can reach out to you if they want to share something. Maybe some of our Vietnam vets that are listening, maybe just reach out, or anyone who's even struggling with alcoholism right now to reach out and just touch base with you, and where we can find your book because I can't wait to get your book. I'm gonna get it, and oh, I'd love an autographed copy. But I want to hear about all the critters and stuff that were on the trail, and we don't have time to get all into all that. But let us know. This is your time to shine and toot your horn. Tell us where to find you.
Well, it's funny because I had a guy next to me the other day asking me, "You wrote a book about the trail and getting recovery?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What's the title?" And I said, "Spiritual Passage." And I went to get him something with my Q code on it, and he says, "Oh, here it is." So if you just type in a spiritual passage, it will pop right up with my profile and all that stuff. It's on Amazon and Thrift Books and all of those. Or they
Okay.
can go to Rand Timmerman, lowercase no, just Rand, RandTimmerman.com. And there's my website. And then there's the links to, Amazon and Thrift Books and so on,
Yes.
Spark and whatever. Or they can email me at Rand Timmerman. It's rand.timmerman@gmail.com. Um, and I have been I will send you the book if you want to send me your address and I'll autograph it.
Oh my gosh, yes, please, please. It's really
Yeah, I
neat.
would definitely do that. And if you can pay for it, it's $35. If you can't, that's okay.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely. And it's really nice because I want my grandson to read it because he's such a nature. He just turned 18 yesterday and he's all about conservation. If that's what he wants to do when he graduates is, something
Oh,
with,
good for him.
you know, the earth. He's so concerned with the earth. He's like, he lectures me about lawns. We're not supposed to have lawns. Yeah, he is really, I mean, trust me, we have like a nature thing behind our house and he wants our yard to be all that wild growing stuff. And I've given him 3 garden spaces to do what he wants with the natives, the Texas native plants. But I'm like, I gotta have my lawn. Sorry, I have an HOA, honey. But I think he would really enjoy this story that, I could see him doing that one day because that's who he is. He's a very, he's not interested in sitting in a classroom in college. He just wants to get out there. I said, Greenpeace would be great for him. But yeah, we're gonna put those in the show notes where to get the book, guys, and where to reach out. Don't forget rand.timmerman@gmail.com. You can reach out if you have any comments or compliments or love to send his way. And then go get that book, you guys. And the biggest thing as authors, because I am one as well, please, please leave a review. If you love the book, please, please give him that 5-star review because that's what brings attention to the book. And that's our heart and soul when we write as authors. It's something that we just pour ourselves into. It's like a baby that we hand over to the public. So, give us a review and tell us our baby is beautiful. That's all we're asking. So, thank you so much for being here, Randy. You're such a joy. You're so much fun. I feel like we were just sitting around having coffee and you were telling me the most amazing stories, and you are inspirational. And I just thank you for all that you bring to this world, for being this beautiful soul that shines on others. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it through Vietnam. I'm glad you made it through alcoholism, which we still work is that's the idea when you're an alcoholic and you never stop being an alcoholic. But I appreciate you, and I know that the listeners are gonna love you and give me that feedback on you. So Thank you for being here. We love you. And if you'll hang in for just 1 second, I'll close it up with our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, listeners, I hope you enjoyed our new friend, Rand, because I know that I did. And I'm changed because I heard him, because this is my get to. We all got to hear the beauty that is Rand and the stories of his life. And if we can all reach 80 years old and look back at what he's been through, how he's overcome and the resilience. That's really what this podcast for me is about is we're the pebble. I want to make sure that we reach far and wide with our ripples and that people's lives are changed by hearing other people's vulnerabilities. We're not here putting on any front or any disguise. We're here saying, "Hey, this is what happened. This is what happened in my life. This is a true story. Yeah, this sucked, or this was good, or this was bad." Um, I think if we carry that out into the world to one another and be more open and vulnerable, I think we'd be a much kinder and compassionate people. So that's my soapbox for today. You guys all know where to find me at lifecoachmaureen.com. If you're looking for any help in self-confidence, self-love, I do relationship couples coaching as well as business coaching. I start for people with who want to start a small business. And speaking of small businesses, my dog is everything.net is my doggy boutique that you can go to that I make homemade healthy treats, paw balm, dresses, clothes, leashes, all kinds of fun things, bandanas. So go there for Christmas. It's coming up. Yay! Yay! We're a day away from Halloween, which is tomorrow, and this will be going out a week afterwards. I also do want to do a shout out. My mom and dad were married today, 60 years. Their
Wow.
anniversary. Yeah, yeah. October 30th, 1965. Mama and Dad, 60 years, still here and still going strong. So I get to see them in a few days. We're going to celebrate with them. So, other than that, you guys know where to find my books on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am. My dog is my relationship coach, and my two children's books, which teach mindfulness, as Rand was talking about, he said, I would do what I can in the moment. And I love that. That's mindfulness, that's staying in the moment. And what he also said that I love that I wrote down is he said, I'm never going to step here again. And when he said that, he was taking it all in. He was taking pictures of the beauty and looking around him. And I think that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today is you're never going to step where you are today again. So make the most of it because that's what I want for you. I want everyone to have a beautiful, wonderful, fulfilling life. So until next week, my friends, love you all so much. Make sure you take care of you, take care of each other. You know what I'm going to say next. Please take care of those furry babies. And please, let's make sure that we adopt. Do not shop because there are so many furry babies. I made the mistake of going on our local shelter site. And my poor husband, I was just like, look, we need that one. Look, we need that one. Yeah, no, I can't get any more animals, but there's so many. And you'll know because there will just be something that you connect with that animal and they will choose you. I always say that. You don't choose them. They will choose you. You'll just feel it. And they're so unconditionally loving and they're just amazing. That's what animals and children are. Just pure, innate love and closer to God than any of us as we pull away when we come here and when we're born. So that's about it for today, guys. I love you all, and we'll see you next week. Take care.